They laughed when the idea was suggested. Humans, fighting barehanded, absurd. To the aliens, whose societies had long since abandoned physical combat in favor of technology, the concept seemed like a cruel joke. And yet, it was in the sterile brightness of the Intergalactic Academy's training arena that the laughter began to falter. The challenge had started as mockery. The Threx, a reptilian species with serrated fangs and natural armor, had been jeering at the human cadet named Marcus. "You hide behind tools. Without your weapons, you are nothing," one of them hissed in perfect galactic common. Marcus didn't flinch. He wasn't tall by alien standards, nor covered in scales or claws, but there was something in his calm stare that unsettled them. "Take them away, then," he said evenly. "I don't need weapons." The arena floor shifted, tiles rearranging with a hum of machinery. Energy blades and plasma rifles were retracted into the walls. The spectators, a menagerie of species from across the stars, leaned forward in anticipation. Most assumed it would be a quick, humiliating defeat for the human. The Threx warrior chosen to face him stepped into the ring, his scales shimmering with bioluminescent blue, claws flexing like curved daggers. He let out a guttural roar that made the arena walls tremble. "You will regret this, fragile one." Marcus simply rolled his shoulders, stretching his hands, loosening his stance. His training wasn't in flashy martial arts designed for spectacle, it was in the gritty, efficient combat systems born of Earth's long violent history. Centuries of war, survival, and hand-to-hand struggle were distilled into his muscles. The signal blazed. The Threx lunged, claws slicing through the air. Gasps erupted from the crowd as Marcus sidestepped with impossible timing, his bare feet gliding across the arena floor. In a single motion, he trapped the alien's wrist, twisted, and drove his elbow upward into the Threx's armored jaw. The crack echoed like a gunshot. The alien staggered back, stunned, blood dripping from its scaled mouth. The audience fell silent. They had expected hesitation, fear, maybe even retreat. Instead, they saw ferocity. Marcus didn't stop. He surged forward, fists like hammers, his strikes precise, controlled. Every movement spoke of discipline honed under pressure. It wasn't wild rage, it was calculated survival. His opponent tried to slash with his free claw, but Marcus slipped inside the strike, slammed his knee into the Threx's abdomen, and drove the alien to the floor with a force that rattled the arena tiles. The silence broke into uproar. Some shouted in disbelief, others screamed in excitement. A few simply stared, wide-eyed, as if witnessing a predator they hadn't known existed. Marcus stepped back, breathing steady, fists lowered but ready. "Still think we're nothing without weapons?" he asked into the stunned silence. The Threx warrior groaned, struggling to rise. Around the arena, the alien spectators no longer looked amused. They looked uneasy, because for the first time they were beginning to realize something terrifying. Humans didn't need claws, fangs, or plasma rifles. When stripped down to the barest form of combat, humans still fought, and they fought to win. The medics rushed to the fallen Threx, their equipment glowing as they scanned his cracked jaw and bruised torso. But the warrior pushed them away, growling, too proud to accept help in front of the others. His glare at Marcus carried more confusion than hatred. Around the arena, whispers began to ripple among the alien spectators. The Varen scholars scribbled furiously on their crystalline tablets, trying to make sense of what they'd just seen. The tall insectoid chur fluttered their wings anxiously, exchanging nervous clicks, and the Krovan gladiators, once dismissive, now sat on the edge of their seats, watching Marcus with an intensity usually reserved for predators. "This isn't possible," hissed one alien to another. "Humans are fragile. Their bones break easily, their skin tears. They are soft, yet he stands uninjured." Another replied, voice low, as if afraid Marcus could hear them. Marcus rolled his shoulders again, his posture relaxed, as if what had just happened was nothing extraordinary. To him it wasn't. He'd trained countless hours back on Earth. Wrestling, boxing, Krav Maga, judo, centuries of Earth's martial disciplines ran through his veins. On his homeworld, this wasn't spectacle, this was history. The overseer of the trial, a towering alien draped in ceremonial robes, stepped forward. His multiple eyes blinked in disbelief. "Perhaps it was luck," he muttered. "One human strike landing by chance." Marcus smirked at that. "Luck," he repeated, his voice carrying across the arena. "Why don't we test that theory again?" The challenge hung in the air like a live current. The spectators gasped. No one challenged the overseer, yet here was a human, his fists still bloody from impact, daring anyone else to step forward. A Krovan warrior accepted. twice Marcus's size, with spiked armor grown from his own body and a booming roar that shook the floor. The Krovan were feared even among warrior species, known for their brute strength and merciless efficiency. Surely this would end the human streak. The bell rang again. This time, Marcus didn't wait. He closed the distance in an instant, weaving through the Krovan's massive swings like water slipping through cracks in stone. A strike aimed at Marcus's head missed by centimeters, crashing into the ground with an explosion of shattered tiles. Marcus ducked, slipped under, and drove his fist into the Krovan's ribs. The alien snarled in surprise, but before he could retaliate, Marcus had already pivoted behind him, slamming an elbow into the back of his neck. The Krovan stumbled forward, catching himself, rage boiling in his eyes. The fight turned brutal. Every blow from the Krovan could have snapped Marcus in half, yet he evaded with reflexes honed by survival, countering with strikes that targeted weaknesses most aliens didn't even know they had. Humans had studied anatomy, predator and prey alike for millennia. Marcus exploited every gap in armor, every exposed joint, every moment of overcommitment, and then came the moment. The Krovan roared, lunged with all his mass, claws spread wide to crush. Marcus slid sideways, seized his arm, twisted, and in one fluid motion used the alien's own weight to throw him headlong into the ground. The impact shook the arena. The Krovan lay dazed, unable to rise. Marcus stood over him, chest heaving but steady, his knuckles raw and bleeding. The arena erupted not in laughter this time, but in a cacophony of disbelief, fear, and awe. For the second time, Marcus had proven a terrifying truth. Humans didn't need weapons to be dangerous. The Krovan warrior lay sprawled across the cracked arena tiles, his armored spikes twitching as he struggled to rise. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Not even the insectoid chur clicked their wings. The crowd, which had once jeered and mocked, now stared in stunned disbelief. Marcus took a slow breath, wiping the blood from his knuckles against his training uniform. His chest rose and fell with measured control. He wasn't unscathed. His arm bore bruises, his fists were torn raw, but he still stood tall. More importantly, he looked unbroken. The overseer shifted uneasily. His eyes scanned the crowd, reading the ripples of unease spreading through every alien species present. The demonstration had turned into something much darker than entertainment. What began as a joke at humanity's expense now gnawed at the edges of their confidence. The Varen scholar leaned close to his assistant, whispering, "This doesn't make sense. By every calculation, humans are weaker, slower, more fragile. And yet," he paused, quills scratching rapidly against the crystalline tablet. "Their efficiency in close combat is undeniable." "Efficiency," the assistant hissed. That looked like savagery. The Krovan groaned, dragging himself to his feet with visible shame. He would not meet Marcus's gaze. Defeat was one thing, but to lose to a fragile creature with no weapons was something else entirely. It cut at the heart of their arrogance, and Marcus knew it. He stepped forward, his voice carrying across the arena. "You think claws, scales, or armor make you strong, but strength isn't in what you're born with. It's in how far you're willing to go when everything is stripped away." His words echoed, sharp as a blade. Aliens shifted uneasily in their seats. Some of them understood. Others tried to deny the pit growing in their stomachs. "Here's only one human," muttered a Threx observer, her tail lashing nervously. "Perhaps he is exceptional. The rest cannot be the same." But the words lacked conviction. The overseer, trying to regain control, raised a trembling hand. "Enough. This test has gone far enough. Humanity has demonstrated resilience. We will adjourn." Marcus cut him off. "No," he said firmly. "You wanted to see what a human can do without weapons, so keep watching." Gasps erupted. The audacity, the defiance, it shook them. Marcus turned, pointing to the gathered warriors of different species. "Send another. Send all of them. I'll keep fighting." The silence was electric. Even the overseer faltered, his authority cracking under the sheer force of Marcus's will. Finally, a new sound broke the stillness, the slow, deliberate scraping of armored claws across stone. From the crowd rose a massive figure, taller than any Krovan or Threxian Orlak gladiator, renowned across the stars as an undefeated champion of unarmed combat. His body was a fortress of shifting plates, his eyes like burning coals. The crowd erupted in anxious chatter. Marcus's gaze met the Orlak's. He flexed his fists, blood still dripping from his knuckles, and allowed himself a small smile. This was no longer about mockery. This was about survival, dominance, and the terrifying revelation spreading through the galaxy. Humans fight even when they're broken, and sometimes that's what makes them unbeatable. The Orlak stepped into the arena, each footfall a thunderous weight on the shattered tiles. His armor plates shifted as he moved, grinding like tectonic stone, each one designed by evolution to withstand crushing blows. The crowd stirred, nervous yet eager. Surely this would end the human's streak. Marcus studied him carefully. This was no lumbering Crovan or hot-headed The Urlak moved with deliberate precision, his massive hands flexing like siege engines. His reputation preceded him. He had never been defeated, not even once, in countless cycles of combat. You have spirit, human, the Urlak rumbled, his voice like gravel sliding down a mountain. But spirit alone will not save your fragile body. Marcus smirked, though his shoulders tightened in preparation. We'll see about that. The signal blared. The Urlak charged, faster than anyone expected for his size. Marcus darted sideways, narrowly escaping a strike that shattered the arena floor where he had been standing. Shards of glowing tile flew into the air. The sheer power behind that blow could have pulped him instantly. The crowd gasped, but Marcus didn't freeze. He flowed around the attack, eyes scanning for weaknesses. His training screamed at him. Nobody is invincible. Every fortress has cracks. The Urlak's arms swung like hammers. Marcus weaved, ducked, rolled, each movement shaving away fractions of death. He countered with a sharp jab to the Urlak's ribs only to recoil as his knuckles struck the armor plates with a bone-jarring crack. Pain seared through his hand, but he gritted his teeth and kept moving. The Urlak laughed, a deep, rumbling sound. Your strikes cannot pierce me. But Marcus wasn't aiming to pierce. He was aiming to wear down. Every dodge forced the Urlak to waste energy. Every feint redirected his momentum. Marcus attacked exposed joints, edges between plates, the soft flesh beneath the towering giant's chin. For minutes, the arena was a storm of movement, massive fists, pulverizing stone, a human slipping through gaps like a shadow, fists and knees landing with relentless rhythm. And then it happened. The Urlak overextended. His fist slammed into the ground, leaving his side briefly exposed. Marcus seized the moment. He launched upward, driving his knee into the alien's throat with explosive force. The Urlak staggered, choking, his massive form swaying. Marcus didn't hesitate. He unleashed a barrage, fists, elbows, knees hammering the same vulnerable spot until cracks spidered across the Urlak's protective plates. Blood, thick and dark, spattered across the tiles. The champion roared, swinging blindly in rage. Marcus ducked low, swept the Urlak's legs from under him, and in a stunning display of leverage, brought the giant crashing to the ground. The arena shook. The audience erupted in chaos. Shouts of disbelief, fear, and awe mingled together. Never in their history had they seen the undefeated Urlak fall let alone to a bare-handed human. Marcus stood over the fallen giant, his chest heaving, sweat and blood streaking his face. He looked around at the stunned crowd. "You think we're fragile?" he rasped, his voice cutting through the uproar. "Fragile things break, but we don't. We adapt, we endure, and we fight until the fight is over." For the first time, some of the aliens weren't just uneasy, they were afraid. The Urlak champion lay sprawled, his colossal chest rising and falling in ragged breaths. His once impenetrable armor plates were cracked, blood seeping through the fractures. The silence in the arena was deafening. No gears, no laughter, only the heavy weight of disbelief pressing down on every alien present. Marcus stood tall above him, his fists raw, his body bruised, but his spirit blazing brighter than ever. For the first time, the crowd wasn't looking at a human like a curiosity, they were looking at him like a storm. The overseer's voice quivered as he spoke. Impossible, utterly impossible. One human, bare-handed, defeating a Crovan, a Threx, and now, he gestured weakly at the fallen giant. The Urlak champion. The alien scholars scribbled furiously, their equations and theories unraveling in front of them. Their logic had collapsed. This didn't fit into any data model they had. But Marcus wasn't finished. He turned, facing the sea of alien faces. His chest heaved, his voice hoarse but steady. "You think fighting barehanded makes us weak? No, it makes us dangerous. We've spent our history fighting wars with nothing but what we had: sticks, stones, fists, and willpower. We don't need your claws. We don't need your armor. We have something you don't." "What?" someone shouted from the crowd, their voice sharp with both fear and curiosity. Marcus's eyes blazed as he answered, "We refuse to quit." Gasps rippled through the arena. Some aliens shrank back, as though the human's determination was a physical force radiating outward. Others, warriors, gladiators, soldiers, felt an uneasy respect stirring inside them. Suddenly, the Urlak champion groaned, forcing himself to rise on trembling limbs. his burning eyes fixed on Marcus. But instead of rage, there was something else, reverence. Slowly, painfully, the Orlac lowered his head in a gesture none had ever seen from him before. Submission, respect. The arena erupted into chaos. Some spectators cheered wildly, recognizing history in the making. Others recoiled in fear, their worldview collapsing as they realized that humans, small, soft, fragile humans, possessed a resilience no technology could replicate. Marcus turned away from the fallen champion and raised his fists once more. His voice thundered across the arena. Send another. Send all of them. I'll fight until I can't stand, and, even then, I'll keep fighting. The overseer's multiple eyes blinked rapidly, his composure shattering. This was no longer a performance. This was revelation. For the first time in galactic memory, the mighty warrior species felt the sting of doubt. Because if one human could endure this much, what would happen if an army of them came? The air inside the arena crackled with silence. The crowd of alien spectators, creatures from across galaxies, with scales, tendrils, wings, and eyes that glowed like molten fire, were frozen in disbelief. Their expectations had been shattered, their laughter silenced. For the humans still stood, bloodied, bruised, breathing raggedly, but still standing. The towering warrior lay sprawled on the arena floor, its massive chest heaving, limbs twitching, as if refusing to admit defeat. But the truth was undeniable. It had been bested not by claws, not by weapons, not by some alien technology, but by the raw fists of a human being. A hush, stretched, long and unbearable. Then, one alien broke it with a shrill, almost panicked voice. Impossible. Their bones should have shattered. Another, trembling, hissed. How does a fragile creature withstand such punishment? And then, from the human's lips split, bleeding, came a rasping chuckle. The sound was like gravel dragged over steel, but there was defiance in it, a challenge, a reminder. You thought I wouldn't dare, but that's what we do. We fight, we endure, we finish. With those words, the human raised one battered fist into the air, not in triumph, not in arrogance, but in declaration. The arena erupted not in cheers, but in chaos. Some aliens shrieked in horror, others fled their seats, and still others stared, stunned, realizing they had just witnessed something that defied every assumption about humankind. What they thought was weakness had proven to be unbreakable strength. The alien announcer, its voice trembling, spoke the words no one expected. By the laws of the great arena, the victor is the human. That single proclamation rippled across the galaxy. For humans, it was a spark of legend, proof that, even in a universe filled with towering monstrosities, and civilizations far older than Earth, they could stand shoulder to shoulder or fist to fist with anyone. For the aliens, it was something else entirely, a warning. Whispers spread like wildfire. They fight with nothing but flesh. They defy the odds. They bleed, but they never stop. They are dangerous. And so, long after the human had limped away from the battlefield, long after their knuckles had healed and their story had been told around campfires and in mess halls, one truth remained. Humans did not need claws. They did not need weapons. They only needed the will to fight, and that will was enough to make the stars themselves take notice.